Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to seeing us on the 4-3 show. I'm Ryan Blank. I'm alongside Parker Dunn, Pat Fortuna, and Dominic Stern. Gentlemen, how are we doing on this fine Monday afternoon?
I'm doing good. Day in the life, another day in the life. We're just chilling.
Parker, you just got back from Florida last night.
I did.
How are you doing?
Well, I didn't get any sleep on the flight, so that wasn't ideal. But I'm here now, so we're doing all right. A lot of work to do the next 2 weeks. Just gotta try and wrap it all up.
Pat?
You missed some more Pong dominance from Dominic Stern.
I know. I wish I could have been there. I wish could have taken care of business on the table.
Pat, how you doing today, buddy?
Pretty good. Got vaccinated for COVID this morning.
How you feeling?
So far, so good. I'm not jinxing anything.
You're not mutating into anything? That's the first step.
Well, that's good. Glad you're not mutating.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to start off in the NFL and a topic that's going to upset the cheese man, Pat. Julian Edelman retired today after being released by the Patriots due to a failed physical. Pat, I'm going to go to you. You have however long you want to talk about Julian Edelman. I know he means a lot to the Patriots and to you, so go right ahead. The floor is yours.
So I'm going to say this. Probably my favorite player to ever play in New England is Julian Edelman. He's an embodiment of what it means to work hard, to go from, having no shot in the league. He played like 4 different positions. He played quarterback at Kent State. Cornerback coming out of the draft is what they wanted him to play. And then they had him play punt returner for a bit until he was, a wide receiver. And he embodies what it means to be a Patriot. He was the Patriot way. Like him and Brady were the Patriot way. Him, Brady, and Gronk, I guess. But I don't know. It's sad. I cried when I watched his video. I did. It's hard to watch somebody like that leave the team, especially so unexpectedly. But yeah, I don't know. You guys give your thoughts. I'm still a little broken up about it.
He was one of the consistent parts of the Patriots over the last several years. And, I heard Pat scream, no, that he was getting cut. Now I think Pat's a little more relieved that he's going to retire instead of joining Tom Brady and the other Patriots down.
Or just any other team. Like there were Chiefs and Ravens and all these rumors swirling. And
49ers, I saw some 49ers people in the comments, and he's someone like had it like prepared, like, oh, welcome to the 49ers, because like there's some photo of him as a 49er when he was young, and then like 30 seconds later he's like, never mind, just saw the video. That was funny. Yeah, Edelman was great. He was so consistent. The past 2 seasons he had been not what he was, and that's just because he grew old. He had some injuries and he just couldn't come back from them. And with what the Patriots added this offseason, he became less of a necessity for the New England Patriots this season. And it was time to move on. And he had a great career. If I were a part of the panel voting for Hall of Fame, I would put him in based on the accolades that he's accomplished. Now, stats wise, he's not a Hall of Famer. It doesn't have to be that way. But at the same time, what he's done is truly remarkable. His number should be retired for the New England Patriots, though.
Well, yeah, I'll say this, Dom.
Continue.
I think that at the very least he belongs in the Patriot Hall of Fame. At the very, very, very least. And I do think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. He played 11 years at the same team. He has 3 Super Bowl titles. You're laughing, but he has 3 Super Bowl titles. He has a Super Bowl MVP.
I'm not laughing. I was not laughing. I was smiling.
He has a Super Bowl MVP. And his regular season stats aren't great. He has 6,800 something yards, 36, I believe, and then 36 touchdowns. But that alone, I mean, like, considering where he came from, he way exceeded expectations, and I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Parker, over to you.
I mean, I'm not even gonna get into the Hall of Fame debate, but like just taking a moment to appreciate how good Julian Edelman was. I mean, he was one of the most consistent wide receivers, and you just look at him, and I do agree with the embodying like the Patriots, because you just look at the weapons that Brady's had. Like obviously he's had guys like Randy Moss, but then you look at a Julian Edelman, and you're like, okay, he's not a Randy Moss, but he just seems to get it done. If you need to pick up a 3rd and 5 or a 3rd and 10, you know you can turn to him. And he's going to get open in the biggest of moments. He has what a lot would consider one of the craziest or maybe the best catches we've ever seen in Super Bowl history against the Falcons. His resume definitely has a lot of great accolades. He's shown up in the biggest of moments, so he definitely is one of the better receivers that we've had a chance to watch. And there's just a lot that can be said about the greatness that Julian Edelman has and what he's been able to do for Tom Brady and the Patriots during his 11-year career there.
I'm going to say it this way. I'll get into what I feel about Hall of Fame in a second, but looking at Julian Edelman, you guys said it correctly, especially with you, Dom, saying he embodied, and Pat, saying that he embodied the Patriot way. That is Julian Edelman. What he did to become the player that he did and become such an influential and critical piece to their success is legendary in and of itself, from the amount of times they had him just move around on the field. And I think that what you have to look at is the postseason numbers more than regular season numbers. He ranks 2nd all-time in receiving yards and receptions in NFL playoff history. So that is something that you have to look at as well. Super Bowl 53 MVP. You saw that incredible catch that he made. And he's definitely a guy who's one of the greatest Patriots ever, and his number should be retired. As it could be retired and probably will be. However, I don't believe he's a Hall of Famer. I believe he will be in the Hall of Fame for the gloves, the helmet, cleats, whatever, from that catch and from the Super Bowl 53. He'll be in the Hall of Fame for that. I just don't think he has the numbers to back it up. I don't think he has the accolades for sure. I just think that you also have to have the statistics in both realms of regular season and NF and playoffs to be able to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame and have a speech in Canton. Parker, do you have anything you want to say?
I think he is one of the this is the last I'm going to say about this because it's a stupid argument to have on the day the guy retires. But I mean, he is tried and true one of the grittiest football players the NFL has ever seen. And he's put up better stats than some people who are in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know why you don't think that he belongs in there based on – he has a Super Bowl MVP. How many players in the Hall of Fame can you say have that?
Again, there are some Super Bowl MVPs that aren't in the Hall of Fame. You have to think about that as well. Parker, we've heard – 3 people's stance on the Hall of Fame situation and debate. Do you have anything you want to add about it?
I mean, I personally don't believe that the numbers back it up. I'm really big on the stats being the biggest evidence towards how good a player is, because everyone has a different viewpoint on how they view the game or how they view a certain player on the field. And I view him as an extremely talented one that made the most of his career. Again, you mentioned, Kent State quarterback, like, he is the kind of guy you don't expect to pan out in the NFL or even have a chance at sniffing the NFL. Yeah, he was able to find a connection with Brady and Belichick, and he did something spectacular. And I think that there's nothing wrong with saying he is a great wide receiver, a great football player. But the difference between that and the Hall of Fame, like the Hall of Fame is the absolute peak of an NFL player's career. And it's not a bad thing to think that he's not worthy of that title, but is still very good, because I know just from experience of watching him, he consistently performed, and he was a problem. Like, your defense had to game plan around Julian Edelman, or he was going to make you pay for it. So I think that he's a really good player, but ultimately I think that although there are players that have gone in the past that shouldn't have, that's not an argument for why he should be. Just because other mistakes weren't made doesn't mean a mistake would correct those. So I personally don't believe that he should, but I don't think I would overreact if he did, because he does have accolades, and those certainly do boost your credibility as far as the career he's had. Doesn't mean it's okay, but it happens. So,
all right, that'll do it on Julian Edelman. Let's move on over to the NFL draft. That is 2 weeks away. We all talked about last week how the 49ers moved up to the 3rd pick, trading with the Dolphins. A lot of the rumors are saying they're locked in on drafting Mac Jones out of Alabama. But I want to hear from you guys. Do you think that he should be the pick?
At 3?
Yes.
Absolutely not. No. Are you kidding me? He's the 5th best quarterback in this class. There's a very steep drop off between the top 4 and him. And there's an even steeper drop off between him and the next set of guys. And I just don't know. And I saw Daniel Alameda, he brought up a good point on his TikTok today that said the 49ers lost in their Super Bowl because they didn't have that dynamic player at quarterback like the Chiefs do with Patrick Mahomes. That's why they lost that game. And Mac Jones is not a dynamic playmaker. He's 100% correct on that. And that's what it comes down to. You don't trade up from all the way down there at 12 to get up and move up to number 3 just to draft Mac Jones. That would be so dumb. And they said that they like any of the guys who can get at 3. I think they'll choose someone else, but if they choose him, that would be so dumb.
Yeah, it would be awful, because you look at Mac Jones, he put up some amazing numbers. He was a Heisman finalist behind his teammate and Devontae Smith. It makes sense to think that, he's a good quarterback and could have some success in the NFL, but I don't think that this season that he had should boost him to the quality of being a top 3 pick. I think that's a little bit ridiculous, to be quite honest with you, because this would be an even worse situation comparing it to the Bears with Trubisky. They traded up to get him. Obviously, that didn't work out, and they didn't even need to trade up to get him. They were going to get him at 3, and that would be a similar situation with the 49ers, where they're going to get him with the original pick that they had by the end of the season. So trading up to 3 just to end up taking the lesser of a quarterback in a group of him and 4 others, where the other 4 seem to have proven more and are at least better prospects with a higher ceiling than he has, it would just be a head scratcher. I can't imagine that this happens, and I'd be shocked. I think there's too many quarterbacks, because Lawrence is locked for 1. It seems like Zach Wilson may or may not go 2. I'd say more leaning towards him going 2, and then after that, it's between him, Fields, and then Trey Lance, sorry, completely blanked on. So between Fields and Trey Lance. So I don't think Mac Jones should be in that discussion.
Pat, over to you, my friend.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I always forget Trevor Lawrence is even in this draft, because people don't even talk about him like he's the undisputed 1st overall pick. But there's no chance Mac Jones should even go in the top 10, in my personal opinion. I don't think that there's – other than the fact that he played for Alabama, who was a great school this year, I don't think that he belongs in this top 10. Because they weren't a great school because of their quarterback. They were some of the greatest offensive weapons of all time. So, I don't know. I think if I'm ranking the quarterbacks in this draft, it's Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and then Mac Jones. But like Dom said, there's a steep drop-off there. So I think that's a weird assumption that people are making, that he's going to go that early, because I simply don't see it happening.
I agree with all of you. I don't think he should be in the top 10. I think if the 49ers really wanted Mac Jones, they could have stayed at 12 and gotten him. That's my personal belief. And I think it'd be ridiculous to take him over any of the other 3 of the top 4 quarterbacks in this draft. Depends how it shakes up, because Lawrence is going to go number 1, and it just depends who the Jets are going to go with at 2, whether it is Wilson or Fields or Lance. But any one of those 3, whichever one of those 2 is not taken by the Jets, I'd easily take over Mac Jones. Like you said, Dom, it's a steep drop-off from 4 to 5 where Mac Jones is. And Mac Jones is like Jimmy G, honestly. He's not that dynamic playmaker. He's a game manager that'll just do enough. And I just don't think that if I'm the 49ers, I would not take Mac Jones, especially at 3. I think it would be a waste of a trade up if you take Mac Jones at 3, because you could have easily just sat there at 12, waited for everything to shake out, be happy, and take him there instead of giving up extra draft capital to get him at number 3. I think it's a horrible idea, and I don't think that's where they should go. Continue with the draft. Pat, you segued into it. Top quarterback rankings. The top 5 are obvious. It's whichever order you put them. It's Lawrence is going to be at 1, Wilson, Lance, Mac Jones is going to be at 5, and then Justin Fields is in there as well. Just no matter how you shake them. Dom, how do you have those top 5 ordered?
Yeah, so I mean, Lawrence at 1 is fairly obvious. I mean, some fools are putting Wilson in front of Lawrence, and I don't use the word fool lightly, except for when I'm talking about Ryan Blank. But it's so blatantly obvious that Lawrence is number 1. At number 2, I honestly think it's Justin Fields. I mean, you've seen him go up against the highest level of competition. You've seen him be agile. You've seen him show the arm talent. I think that he is number 2. At number 3, this is where it gets really tough for me, deciding between Wilson and Lance. I ultimately opted to go with Lance here at number 3. I think that he's got more arm strength, and he's just as athletic as Wilson is. And I think when you look at Wilson, I think that what he did this year, the leap that he took was a little unsustainable. And I mean, you watch some of these plays, he's throwing into widely contested areas that he shouldn't be making throws like this, because his team at BYU is just so much better than every team they played this year, with the exception of Coastal Carolina. And even then, Coastal Carolina wasn't even like that good. So I have Wilson at 4, Mac Jones at 5th, and then Trask at 6th, and Mond at 7th.
Parker, over to you.
For me, yeah, Trevor Lawrence, there's not even a reason to like go into why he is. Like, anyone who watches college football knows why he's going to go first overall. That's been known since before. That's been known after his freshman year is what it's been. So I would say after him at 2, it's a little bit dicey. I mean, Zach Wilson has the arm talent. They like to compare him to Mahomes. I don't like that. I don't like when players are compared to such good players at the next level. I think it's a little ridiculous. Like, I get it. Like, yeah, you could say, like, his arm strength resembles that. Him coming out as, like, Mahomes or, like, Josh Allen. So, like, that's fair, but I don't know. I'm just a little weird about comparisons like that. But, yeah, he does have a good arm. He showed it at his pro day. He was making some great throws. He did that cross-body throw down the field, which was pretty spectacular. I would say that his draft stock has certainly risen. The level of competition at BYU is a bit of a concern, but ultimately I do think he probably is that second guy because of the talent that he does possess. And I think the biggest thing with him is accuracy and decision-making. I give him the nod over a guy like Justin Fields, who is the third guy for me. I'm a bit concerned with what he's able to do after his first read. It seems like he stares at receivers down the field. He makes it easier for defenses to kind of figure out where he's looking to go with the ball. His talent is unbelievable, and that's what it gives him some slack, because he's the definition of a dual threat player ever since coming out of high school. Him and Lawrence were those top 2 quarterback prospects. Lawrence being pro style, him being a dual threat. He ran a 4.41. He's got the legs to go with it. So I think that it makes sense to put him there, because the current NFL with these quarterbacks, you see Lamar Jackson's or even Patrick Mahomes, who are very versatile. They're able to run when they need to, get out of bad situations. I like him in that sense. So I would put him at 3, even though there are some issues. Then you go to Trey Lance at 4. When you talk about Zach Wilson with the level of competition, then you definitely got to look at it with North Dakota State and the quality of teams that he's playing over there. Accuracy's been a big thing. Not a very tight spiral. It doesn't seem like he can really locate it very well. People bring up the interception numbers that are like non-existent. But if you look at the kinds of throws that he's making, they are a little bit concerning for a guy who is the 4th quarterback off the board, who is realistically going to go in the top 10 because of how big of a need it is for so many of the teams that find themselves with bad records dating back to last season, getting them these picks. So I think that he kind of wraps it off at 4. And then there's good old Mac, who we already mentioned, who was behind those 4.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go. It's obvious. Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in this draft, no doubt. Number 2, I'm going to go with Justin Fields. I do have worries with him. He doesn't read the entire field. He kind of stares down one receiver and locks in there, which is worrisome from my perspective. But he's gone against some of the best teams in the country. He has the potential, and he's just got the athleticism that I think outweighs Zach Wilson. So that's why I have Wilson at 3. Also, his decision-making is very spotty. Like Dom mentioned, some of the throws he made were just overall stupid throws, in my opinion. And if he's going against some of those top teams, they are making plays on a lot of those balls. Zach Wilson has the arm talent. He has a tremendous arm, but at the same time, I do not think that his decision-making is where it should be for a guy who is potentially going to be the 2nd overall pick. 4, for me, is obviously Trey Lance. He is a dual-threat quarterback. He does a great job using his legs. He has great arm talent as well, but I like your comparison, Parker, with his accuracy comparable to Josh Allen when he was coming out. I think that his accuracy is off. He doesn't have the best spiral when he's throwing it, but his athleticism is insane. He is the definition of a dual-threat quarterback, and I think that he is going to be a very talented player and quarterback, but I think he's going to need a year or two under someone's system to where he can be that quarterback. And then 5 is Mac Jones. Mac Jones is going to do what you expect him to do. He's not going to do anything flashy. He's going to throw the ball well. He's going to be a good game manager. That's what you expect from him. Nothing too flashy. And then 6, I have Kellen Mond, and 7, I have Trask. Now I want to switch over to running backs.
Is Pat going to give his?
Well, Pat gave his quarterback rankings when we were going over the rumors with Mac Jones.
Yeah. In my 6 and 7 those years, Trask and Mond.
Yeah, I didn't even give 6 and 7, but they seem to be the 2 other consensus guys that are outside of that top 5.
It sucks for them too because they're gonna drop all the way to like the end of the 2nd round.
Yeah.
Well, they're not that good, so they shouldn't go any earlier than that.
All right, running backs. And I want to go over to Pat for this one first. Pat, what running backs do you like in this year's draft?
Najee Harris. I don't know. This isn't like a super running back heavy class, is it?
No, and running backs don't matter anyways. So, you draft guys out of college that are fast and can break tackles, and you hope that they stay healthy in the NFL. That's how you draft.
I would be shocked if we didn't see a running back go in the 1st round.
I think Najee's going to go in the 1st round. That's it.
Really? I see him going somewhere in the 2nd, quite honestly. I don't know who takes him in the 1st. CEH went 32 last year, and I don't know. I can't see Najee going in the 1st round.
And that was an objectively bad 1st-round draft pick.
Yeah. Yeah. No dig on the cheap side. Don't come for me.
I'm sorry.
But you're right.
You guys know I disagree with the pick. You guys know I disagree with the pick. I won.
Yeah, until 10 minutes.
What?
Did he get kicked off or?
No, I didn't kick him. I think he lost connection or something. But you guys know I disagreed with that pick.
Yeah, Ethernet gang.
So
you guys want my running back rankings for this draft class?
Yes.
So like Pat mentioned, Najee Harris. He's clearly the number 1, and I don't see any other way in which someone gets drafted in front of him. My number 2 is Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. I think this is a very powerful and speedy running back. Not great out of the backfield in terms of catching the football, but very talented guy, and I think that he can definitely make some moves and cause some problems. Number 3 is going to be Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. Of course, did that 300-yard rushing game and then absolutely dominated Clemson before injuring himself in the national championship game. The injury is still a bit of a concern going into the NFL season, but he's super talented. And you don't need the rookie running back to produce right away. Number 4 is Kylan Hill out of Mississippi State. Really talented guy, and kind of was disappointing in 2020, but I think he entered this year as the number 2 or number 3 running back in the class. Came down a little bit, but still really fast. Talk about a guy who can catch the ball in the backfield. He's super talented. And number 4 is Travis Etienne. I have the same concerns about him as I did with Jonathan Taylor. Super fast, super shifty, but at the same time, he's been the starting running back at Clemson for 4 straight years. And at some point, that's going to catch up to him because he's taken a lot of hits over the course of his career. Now, fortunately for him, there were a lot of games where he got subbed out in the 3rd or the 4th quarter because Clemson was just crushing teams in a really bad ACC. But Etienne, he's not a big bruiser, but he's fast and can catch the ball. I'm not sure if he gets through his rookie contract, though. He's number 5.
Parker, over to you.
Yeah, Najee Harris seems to be the consensus one. I guess you could say he's the Lawrence of the running back group. The numbers he put up were pretty spectacular as well. He was another guy who was one of those guys who's going to get some votes for the Heisman. Knew ultimately he wasn't going to win it, nor should he really deserve to win it based on the value that his position provided. But he did have a spectacular season, and he definitely maximized his value going into this year's draft by having the season that he had. I think so. He without a doubt goes first. Then at second, I would put Travis. I think that, again, the workload for running backs is a big issue going to the NFL. That's why their careers just typically don't last as long. The lifespan of the average NFL running back is significantly smaller than any other position. So I think that is an issue, but I think teams see the talent that he has. They see what he can do, both catching the ball and running it up the middle. Then you look at Javonte Williams, who is another guy at a UNC. There was actually 2 talented backs. Him and Michael Carter were very good. I'm interested to see where both of them go. They are kind of the same situation as Georgia with the Sonny Michel and then
Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I'm just blanking out on everyone these days. My memory is just gone. But Nick Chubb. So they weren't as good as those 2. They weren't of the same caliber. But they are similar in the situation where you see a team with 2 very good backs that are going to go get drafted in the first 5 rounds. So I think that those 2 are very good. But of the 2, Javonte Williams seems to be the consensus, put up better numbers, you name it. So I think that he'd be the 3rd option. Then once you get to 4, I think it is Trey Sermon. He was very good at Ohio State, and he was just massive. He would run dudes over, and I think that he could definitely have the build and the size with good enough speed to go to the next level in the NFL. It's a bummer that he did get hurt. I mean, they were going to get crushed with the way Alabama played in that game either way. Again, because he is a running back, he can only bring so much to the table. Wasn't going to change the outcome that significantly, but still that was a better player on the offensive side that hurt Ohio State's chances when he went down. So that was unfortunate to see. Then another one, once you get to this part, there's a lot of quality running backs. I know that Chuba Hubbard is also kind of like Jonathan Taylor. They used him a lot, and which is the consensus with most of these guys. But he was used a lot, but he certainly did put up amazing numbers during his time at Oklahoma State. So I think that he's a guy that would probably round out the top 5 right there.
For me, Najee's 1. 2, I'm going to put Travis Etienne. I'm very high on Travis Etienne. I think that he is kind of like Jonathan Taylor with how shifty he is. He's got some great speed, but I love his ability to receive out of the backfield. I think he's probably the best receiving back in this draft, and I really think that he's going to be a very talented piece on any NFL team. I was hoping last year that he was going to declare for the draft, and the Chiefs would have taken him in like the 2nd or 3rd round. But then instead they took CEH, who I love CEH, with the first round, and we all know how I felt about that pick. Thank you, Pat. For me, number 3, I am going to go with Javonte Williams. I think that out of the duo from North Carolina, I think that he was the better piece. He put up more production, and I think that he has just been a rising prospect since the start of last season. 4, I'm going to go with Trey Sermon. I really like Trey Sermon. I think that he's a bruiser. He's a guy who's going to be able to get you yards on any carry. So I think that his physicality helps him. And then 5, I agree with you, Parker. Chuba Hubbard. I have a lot of worries with him, just like the same reasons I had worries with Jonathan Taylor. The amount of hits and the wear and tear on him. But Chuba Hubbard has proved that he can be a guy that can explode in any game. Now, let's move on from the NFL and let's go over to the NBA. Parker, I want to go to you first. James Wiseman, star rookie center for the Warriors, tore his meniscus, I believe, and is out for the season.
Yeah, I mean, there's speculation as to the severity of the injury or as far as confirming that he will indeed not play another game. It seems like no matter what, if it is a torn meniscus, he absolutely will not. It's a shortened season, so it's only 72 games. It's not like he'd have more time to get back. And ultimately, they've been very careful with his minutes. He's a rookie. He's still building into his body as a young player in this league. So they've been very cautious with him all year. He's had some minor injuries here and there. He fractured his wrist earlier in the year. He had 2 COVID situations where the first time he got it, the second time he had exposed himself to it. So his season's been very up and down in that sense. So I do think that ultimately with this injury, he's going to be shut down for the remainder of the year. It makes the most sense. The team's been extremely cautious with him all year. And this is definitely one of those situations where you're going to do the exact same thing. So kind of like with LaMelo Ball, you're seeing 2 of the top 3 picks be out for the year, which is really unfortunate because these are going to be the future stars of the NBA. Both have been balling out. LaMelo had been on a different level by far, but still another talented young rookie who would represent the class very well and has so far up until this point.
The question that I want to ask to all of you is, with the potential severity of the injury to James Wiseman and then LaMelo Ball's injury, is this award just going to be Anthony Edwards to lose at this point? Because his 2 top competitors have suffered big injuries and are probably done for the rest of the season.
Well, so here's the thing. LaMelo is definitely done for the season, but I still think it's his award as we stand right now. Anthony Edwards would really have to start balling out to take him over. There's not a ton of time left in the regular season. There's only a few weeks. But at this point, I mean, it's hard to give it to an injured player. But it's kind of like a Zion not playing half the season and almost beating Ja Morant for it type of situation, type of deal. But right now, I think it's LaMelo's award to lose still. I think it's still his award. I think that Anthony Edwards has to earn it throughout the rest of the year.
Parker, over to you.
I mean, I 100% think it is. I mean, he's averaging just under 18 points a game. And granted, this is on a team that's doing nothing but lose. And, a lot of times with MVP, the NBA values winning more than anything. That definitely plays a huge factor as far as the decision-making process for the voters. But with the Rookie of the Year, it's not quite the same. It's not held in the same regard in that sense. So I do think that he still gets it inevitably. Because, yeah, you could say, like, well, he's a rookie, he came in, but he didn't really boost his team. But you wouldn't expect him to either way, even though he was the first overall pick, because that's a Timberwolves team that wasn't ready to win, especially with Cat being out for a while. So ultimately, I think that based on the numbers he put up and based on a lot of it being flashy stuff, because he was the first overall pick, eyes are on him. You saw that one dunk that he had. He's made some spectacular, flashy plays. And, yeah, those are plays that go on highlight reels, and that shouldn't really play any factor in decision-making, but ultimately it does. It's the I factor test that he passes from what he's been able to do in certain bunches throughout his season so far. So I think that although he's not very efficient, he's going to take more shots and not make as many as you'd like him to. Percentage-wise, he's not as efficient. He still has the numbers, and I think ultimately he does win it because there's no other rookies that come close to him in those numbers. And I think when you look at comparing him to LaMelo Ball, or you look at past situations, the same thing happened with Joel Embiid, the same thing happened with Zion. I'm a believer that you have to play at least a certain amount of games in order to win it, because I think no one's going to argue that had LaMelo stayed healthy, he would have won it. I think LaMelo was above and beyond the best rookie so far, and that's why I picked him to win Rookie of the Year going into the season. Ultimately, not enough games in order to win it. It's kind of like an unwritten rule. You have to play a certain amount to qualify for it, and unfortunately, with LaMelo's injury and when it occurred in the season, he just doesn't meet.
What about in a shortened season?
Well, yeah, it is a shortened season, but I still ultimately don't think he's played enough. Like, you have to play a certain amount, and I don't really have like a number in my mind, or like even a number for an 82 game sample size, but we've seen it with other guys. And I know with like last year with Ja, like so many people would have been furious because of the consistency that he had, and availability is a skill set that some guys just don't have. And I think that the best ability is availability, and that's a saying that is true in these situations. So I think ultimately Edwards will get it. A large reason in part being that.
Parker, I do have a question for you. LaMelo has played over half the season. He's played 41 games.
In a 72-game season, yes.
Do you think that would be classified, in your opinion, enough games, or do you think that he would have to play closer to 2/3 of the season?
It's very close. Like, it's much more borderline. Like with Joel Embiid, like he only played like I think 35 games. I know it was below.
It was in the 30s.
Yeah, it was less than half the season. So I was a believer that he shouldn't win because although he was the best, he shouldn't for that reason. And the same thing kind of with Zion. He had a torn meniscus. He missed the first half of the season. And I think that LaMelo is slightly different, but ultimately I think it still reigns true. And although it is a larger percentage of games, it's just not enough in my opinion.
Yeah. First off, it's absolutely wild that these two guys are younger than all of us. I think that's crazy. Maybe not Pat. No. Anthony Edwards is a little bit older than Pat, but it's just wild. And to me, how many games was the NBA season this year? Was it
72.
7? Yeah, so I mean, Anthony Edwards isn't even going to play the entire season. At this point, he's only got 54 games, and LaMelo Ball is going to finish the season with 41 games. I don't think that's a statistically significant amount more games considering what LaMelo Ball did for his team in a team that was winning. I think that comes to effect. I think that Ball should win this. Now, I mean, Anthony Edwards is great, like Parker mentioned. He's averaging 18 points per game as a rookie. That's fantastic. He's going to be a star player for the Timberwolves for a long time to come. But at the end of the day, I think that LaMelo Ball had the better rookie season, and even though he didn't play quite as many games as him, it was close enough to where I feel like he was better. He played for a winning team. He helped that team be a winning team that hadn't been great over the past couple of years. He had really accelerated that point. And I think that if LaMelo Ball was getting as many minutes because he was on a worse team like the Timberwolves, he would be putting up better stats than Edwards has on the Timberwolves. So I would give my Rookie of the Year vote to LaMelo Ball.
I agree with Dom and Pat. I think that it should be LaMelo Ball. And I understand the games argument from your side, Parker, but I think he's played enough games. I think he's had more production if you look at the success of their teams, like Dom said. Anthony Edwards is averaging just under 18 points, which is terrific as a rookie. He's shooting under 40%. But what you have to look at with LaMelo is that he shot 45%, averaged less points, but more rebounds and assists. So I think that LaMelo Ball has been able to produce on a winning team and a team that's most likely going to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. So I would give it to LaMelo Ball despite the amount of games. Now, we talked about Anthony Edwards. Let's talk about the team that he plays for. Alex Rodriguez has bought the Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx. What do you guys think about A-Rod getting in on buying a sports franchise?
Well, I'm gonna say this before we all go on these tangents and act like we really know what this means. This is a cool buy. Like, it's cool. Oh, A-Rod bought a basketball team. But at the same time, like, I don't know what this means for the culture of this team. He's never owned a team before. He's not known for shifting the culture of organizations as an owner. But I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, it's cool. I don't think there's much more to be said about it right now. We'll have full ownership in 2022, which was an interesting way to do it, to transition the leadership. But if you're transitioning the leadership, I mean, this is one of those teams that might need to, like, hard cut the rope and just, like, restart. I mean, they are just an organization in shambles. They may get the number 1 overall pick 2 years in a row. That is sad. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see.
What this matters, I don't care. I don't care who the owner of the team is. There's a salary cap. It literally doesn't matter. If a team wants to go out and spend money, they can do that. They just got to stay under the salary cap. And it really doesn't matter from the owner's point of view. And it's a basketball game. Fans will show up to basketball games no matter what. So I personally do not care. It's also cool of him to buy the WNBA team in Minnesota as well. I feel like that's more of an important thing, and hopefully he'll bring more popular. What? Can I buy it?
Are you saying it's a pity buy?
No. No, I mean, I just think he wants to own another franchise, and he thinks that it can be profitable, and we'll see. And hopefully, it brings more attention to the WNBA.
Yeah, I thought that part was interesting because initially, when I heard the news, I only saw Timberwolves pop up on my phone screen. So I wish they would have also added that. I think that that's kind of a showing of the kind of coverage that the WNBA gets, and the fact that I didn't even know that until now says a lot. So hopefully, it will build awareness for the WNBA because that is one of the underlying things here that is very significant going forward. But as far as ownership, got him for $1.5 billion. I was a bit shocked that he was able to get him for that price. I didn't realize that that franchise was worth that much. I mean, I know that the NBA, any team that you're going to get is going to be worth a lot nowadays. But you look at it, I believe Steve Ballmer bought the Clippers for like $2.1 billion. It was something in that range. And
Yeah, I think 2.1.
They're like the Sun to the Lakers, like as far as popularity and as far as all that. So, like, of course, they weren't going to be at that level, even though they are based in a big market in LA, one of the biggest. But I just think it's interesting comparing those two teams. Who, of course, when bought, were on very different trajectories and just teams that are two very different locations that are going to be more likely to have success. Because, again, the biggest thing I would say is because they did share the court with the Lakers, who are the favorite team in LA. But it is interesting, nonetheless. A team like Minnesota was worth that much. That shocked me a little bit.
I think it's really cool that A-Rod went and got the WNBA team as well. I think the WNBA is undercovered, I would say. They don't get enough coverage, and I think that there are some very talented teams, very talented players that should get more attention.
Name 5 WNBA players for me.
Why'd you have to ask me this and not them? That's my question for you first.
You're the one who's
We're doing the same players.
Elena Deladon.
I would say Maya Moore, but she left the WNBA
That is
for missionary.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that one for a second.
I mean, we combined for 5 right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Like
Parker and I named the same players,
I'm not
but
gonna lie and say like I know a lot, but like I know some of the bigger higher end players the same way I would for like soccer. Like I don't follow soccer at all, but like I'm gonna know some of the big guys.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was funny that Ryan goes, there's a lot of talented players on a lot of teams, and I said, name 5 of them.
Pat, name 5 WNBA teams.
I didn't say I could. Sorry. Sue Bird.
Pretty sure she retired.
Okay, well, that's probably why I know her name. Who's the one who plays in Phoenix? She's tall.
Brittany Griner.
Brittany Griner. Lola Bunny. And
Space Jam 2 does have a trailer out, but I don't think that quite counts.
and what's her name? The lady on the TNT.
Candace Parker.
Candace Parker.
Yeah.
Wanted to call her Candace Owens, but that's conservative author. Candace Owens, not Candace Parker. All right. Yeah, I never said I could, but yeah.
All right, getting back to A-Rod. He was in on trying to get the Mets when they were for sale. Steve Cohen got him, and he wants to own a franchise, and he decided to go from the MLB to the NBA, and he's getting an up-and-down team, a team that's really just at the bottom of the league and has been the past few years. So maybe he could go in and try to revitalize them. Hopefully he does a better job than former Yankee teammate Derek Jeter's done with the Marlins.
Do you think rich people have like a Craigslist? Like you think they just like post the Timberwolves on Craigslist, like rich people Craigslist? Or like
That's a great question. Something that
None of us know.
I wouldn't know about. Yeah.
but like right, exactly. Like how does A-Rod just go, oh, I'll take the Timberwolves. I'll take the Timberwolves. I don't know. Just some food for thought.
Interesting point. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll give him credit for that. I don't know how you came up with that, but
Billionaire Craigslist. I'm just saying.
if there isn't one, Pat, you should create it.
Okay. All right. That's how I'll become a billionaire and join Billionaire
Take
Craigslist.
it to Shark Tank.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They'd love it. Mark Cuban, are you kidding me? That'd be like his bread and butter.
Did you see that Mr. Wonderful is he's taking anger management classes?
I believe it. Guy's a jerk.
That's awesome.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Kind of reminds me of like Ryan Blank a little bit. Like if Ryan Blank was on
Why
Shark
did I
Tank,
anticipate him saying something like this?
if you were on Shark Tank, you would be Mr. Wonderful. Who do you want to be?
No, I would not be as negative as him.
Who would you be,
telling me-
Lori?
I would never tell someone to take their business to the back of the barn and shoot it. I would never say that. Okay?
All right. Fine.
And you know I'm right. I would not. I have a heart.
Okay.
All right. Let's get back to it. Update MVP rankings because LeBron's hurt, Embiid was hurt, and Harden has climbed in the rankings as well. There's still Jokic and Lillard. Who do you guys think is in the lead for the MVP?
Give this award to Joker. Give it to him. He deserves it. He tries so hard, and he's turned this Nuggets team into something. They feel something all of a sudden. Nikola
All of a
Jokic.
sudden they got Aaron Gordon, and I don't think they haven't. And I believe they won their first 7 games
Lost to the Celtics
with him.
Lost to the Celtics, ended that game on a
they won their first
48
7 games.
run.
Yeah, they did.
So really, what they found was Aaron Gordon, who replaced
But they've
Jeremy
been good for the
Grant.
past
They
few years.
lost.
They've been good for the past few years. He is the best
Yes, they
center in the NBA. I don't think that's even – if anybody wants to argue me on that, they can. But he is the best center in the NBA, and I think he deserves this award with all the injuries. But at the same time, it could still go to somebody like LeBron if LeBron comes back in time for the end of the regular season, but he has no timetable right now. So, I don't know. Harden would be a good option, I guess. I hate that guy. But, yeah, as of right now, I think Nikola should win it.
I will say this. The thing with this award, and I know that this particular player is not going to win it, but I will just leave you with this stat before I even say it because I know, like, based on.
Can I guess who it is before you say anything?
It's Steph Curry.
Yes,
Yeah.
but hear me out. He won't win
We
it.
knew it.
He won't win it because of his team's record. And in the NBA, like I just mentioned with the Rookie of the Year thing, you have to win a lot more games if you're going to get the nod for that award. So the reason why I think he should still be considered is because look at the numbers. The Warriors would be the 7th worst offensive team in NBA history when he's not on the court. When he is, they're the 13th best offense in the league. Is that spectacular? No, it's 13th. It's right around average. But look at that. I mean, you're talking historically of all the teams. I mean, this is the time and era of the offensive game. This is what it's all about. Defense has been pushed back, and it shouldn't be, but like it is. This is the current NBA that we're looking at because of guys like Steph Curry, most prominently. And ultimately, that is just incredible when you look at it. You look at the way he guarded, and I feel like if you watch one game, you would see why he should be. But ultimately, I don't think he will. I just had to bring that to people's attention because if I'm a voter, I look at that and think it makes a lot of sense to vote for him. Obviously, they're below 500. The team's in a bit of a turmoil stage. Wiseman's out. They have issues as to whether or not they're even going to have any chance of getting a potential 8th seed, which doesn't look like they're going to. And I just think that it had to be addressed. But ultimately, if we're looking at realistic players to have the best shot, Embiid's injury certainly doesn't help. That pushes him back. I think that he should have been the leading candidate based on numbers, if you look at it from that perspective. But I do think Jokic is another good one. He's the best big man in the West. As for the league, I think he is. But Joel, with the season he's had, has certainly made it more of a discussion because he's played so well-rounded all year. I would say, though, based on being healthy, Jokic is a very good one. I think that I could back that up, too. I could get behind that because if it wasn't for the injury, I'd say Joel. But, again, that plays a big factor in these kind of things. So I wouldn't mind if he won this award.
How about Damian Lillard?
Yes, I
If
agree.
you're not going to consider Steph, you can't consider Dame. I don't know.
Why? Why is that?
Because Steph is playing at the same level as him.
He's playing at a higher level.
But Damian Lillard's winning.
Yeah, but that's winning is a team stat. We say that all the time. If you can't make the argument of Tom Brady being the greatest quarterback of all time because winning is
Well, I do.
I know you do, but I'm saying if people are going to make that argument, Parker done, then you
For the
can't make
NBA,
the argument.
It's significantly different for the NBA because there's 5 guys on the
I'm
court.
agreeing with you, Parker. Stop talking.
No, I know, but I'm saying I have to defend that though. Like that's it's a very different comparison.
It's a different argument in football because in football, you literally don't play defense. He literally doesn't.
Yeah,
Like,
you're literally not on the field half the time.
like Steph doesn't play defense as it is.
Yes, he does.
It's a joke. It's a joke. But anyways, I mean, Lillard's averaging 28 points. He's averaging 4 threes a game on a team that's going to make the playoffs in the West, and you have to value that. And he's the best player on that team by a mile. Yeah. Jokic is fantastic. I'd put him in second place. At the end of the day, he has a much better supporting cast than Lillard does. But Lillard and the Trailblazers are right behind them in the standings. So I think that Lillard deserves a lot of respect for what he's done. And they're going to be a playoff team in a very loaded Western Conference. And they're nowhere close without him.
I agree. I think Dame should get the award. I think that Damian Lillard is playing at an insanely high level. He's averaging just under 29 points and over 7.5 assists each game. And remember, he was without his basically co-star in CJ McCollum throughout the year, throughout a lot of the season, and they were still winning ball games. His team is winning because of him. And that's why you can't have the Steph Curry argument, because winning is completely different in the NBA, and Damian is getting his team to win games. Damian Lillard deserves his respect, and I think that he should be the number one guy for MVP with all the injuries that have come about. Jokic is second, no doubt at all, but give me Damian Lillard. I think Lillard deserves this award, and I think that it's been a long time coming that he has been really in the talk for MVP. Last topic that I want to talk about for today, I'm going to have to share my screen, but let's see if I can do it correctly this time. I'm technologically challenged, remember that. And it's got to be what Miles Bridges did last night. Let's roll the tape, shall we?
Look at the second half. McDaniels one-on-one mode. Has a smaller man on him. Rozier. Cody Zeller offensive rebound. Bridges! Oh my God!
Let's just take a moment to appreciate the greatness is the Hornets and their announcers. Absolutely love the electricity.
My word! The filthy.
That was filth. That was filth.
All right. What do you guys think of that insane dunk? And which is better? The commentators' reaction or the bench's reaction?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't focus. I mean, I listened to the call, obviously, but I didn't focus on the bench because I'm too focused on the dunk itself. Like, that was absolutely incredible. But if I have to answer that, I would say the Hornets announcers because those guys are awesome. They've had a lot of fun clips to get animated about this year, and that, of course, is the best one by far. But this dunk is just so good because you look at the Anthony Edwards dunk that he had earlier. I thought clear-cut, dunk of the year. Don't even care what other dunks I see this season. There's no way anything tops it. That one makes a really good argument. It could go either way, but wow, is that a good dunk.
Yeah, I mean, the announcer for the Hornets is spectacular. I wish I knew his name off the top of my head, but he's had several pretty cool calls. He's really enthusiastic with his calls, and as an aspiring play-by-play announcer, I enjoy anytime I can see a Hornets highlight, and of course with LaMelo Ball season that he's been having, there's been a little too many highlights on them considering what everyone else can do in the NBA. But I thoroughly enjoy it. Terry Two Beauties is an awesome call, but I'm gonna go with the call.
Pat, over to you.
Cool dunk. Wasn't dunk of the year, but it was cool.
All right, I'm going to say this is the dunk of the year. Over Clint Capella, who's a terrific defender, I think that dunk is insane. Cox all the way back, just slams it home. Insane dunk. I think that is going to compete with Anthony Edwards' dunk over who was it? Watanabe of the Raptors, right?
I don't know, but he needs to retire. That dude needed to retire.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's not a great NBA player as it is, and you can't return from that. Clint Capella should honestly retire too. He got body bagged.
That was a vicious dunk. And I loved the announcer's reaction. I thought that was the perfect way to sum it up. The filthiest of the filthy. I think that's accurate. I thought it was an insane dunk. The Hornets have been shocking this season. I did not think they would be a playoff team, and look where they are now. They're probably going to make it into the playoffs, which is really cool. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the 4-3 Show. Everyone, thank you very much for listening and tuning in with us. We will be back next week.